Hi everybody, my name's Bobby, and I'm here to teach you how to fly airplanes. Just kidding, that's not what we're gonna do, but maybe a little bit. To emphasize the introduction, these are some things about me, but just to keep you paying attention, I've included one thing that is not true, and it's on you to guess which one it is. So, which one's not true? That's correct. Loves pickles is not true. Pickles are gross, and I want nothing to do with them. Thank you very much. The rest is true. Do you want to see the fake sneeze? It's good, right? Thank you very much. Good night. So my work with Groove Boston Mission 6 is predominantly for colleges. We basically figured out that the way people are listening to music has changed a lot, and we went about creating concerts in a totally new way that's all about students. To summarize that, I'm going to show you a short video that recaps some of our events last year to give you a sense of my role in this events industry.
Big part of what we do is creating not just an event for one time, it's creating an event and then it's coming back. And it's growing and it's creating those memories that it's like, we had a great time last year, we're going again this year.
Because we work at colleges, we want to be able to build those traditions with strong names so that when one group of students leave, the next group of students can come in with some expectation of what it already is. It's already well established, well standard. We just run it from there, and that's the tradition.
It sounds idealistic, but it is possible for everyone to enjoy every part of making these shows happen. It makes it more important that we figure out how to create legendary and more rewarding when we do.
I love working with GBM6. This is my third Stoke set, and just like working with them every year has been so awesome. It gives some continuity to kind of know every Stoke set we're going to be hanging with the same people.
And they're also very willing to assign tasks to us, which I really appreciate because it makes me feel very proud of the work that I then see we've accomplished by the end. They're really friendly and easy to get along with crew.
One of the best things is that your crew is also just as open as our crew to try anything new or basically do whatever works, and everyone's so willing to put their best foot forward, but also see what our vision is and really make that come to life.
We're here to help teach and encourage people to learn more, so I always tell people just keep an open mind. If there's something you really want to focus on, we're going to help steer you in that direction.
Generally, students are worried about the next exam or essay or project, so having these little pockets of happiness that we can create for them is really important. This isn't just a job, it's an experience.
So that's my work with GBM6, making people happy through legendary events. Another big part of my professional work is with the Search Foundation. Is anyone familiar with Search, by show of hands? If you're not, that's what this 100 pin is. That's what people that are wearing the golden heart pins are all about. And it's an event, a group that supports event professionals in crisis. Founded in 1997, we've funded 100% of cases for people that needed help, over 300 of them. We've distributed over $1.25 million to fellow events professionals in crisis. So if you'd like to know more about that or would like to contribute, or if you need help, please feel free to come up and chat with me afterwards. So those things are kind of what I do, but still doesn't really answer the question, who am I? And what I've learned with some self-reflection is that on the left, you've got all these buttons and technology and code and things like that. And on the right, you've got all these emotional things, the beauty and the passion and the adventure and the curiosity. And what I've learned is that I exist right in the middle of these things, and that's my happy place. And airplanes, incidentally, put me right in the middle of that because I can push buttons and understand the physics, and the reward for that is getting to fly above the clouds and see things that nobody else gets to see. And it's just the coolest thing ever, and it really resonates for me. What I'm actually experiencing in an airplane is called flow state. Is anyone familiar with that term? What does it mean? Do you know? Can you define it? Yes. Exactly. Yes. So it's when you feel like you're doing what you were born to do. That was perfect explanation. For the engineers among us, if we look at it on a graph, it's a combination of high skill and high challenge that tends to put you in flow state. Now, a lot of us are familiar with some of the negative sides of this graph: boredom, apathy, worry, and anxiety. Are these things we can all relate to? Unfortunately, especially in this industry, I think we've all been there. On the right side is some more positive things: relaxation, control, arousal. And then ideally you get in this high skill, high challenge zone, and that's where you experience flow state. And flying an airplane for me and for pilots, that's where you end up. So as much as we're here to talk about airplanes, I know that's really not what you need to learn today. So we're here also to talk about the way pilots think and the way pilots communicate, and see if there's something we can learn from. So let's start with, how do pilots sound, right? When you hear pilots on your flight over here, on your flight home, and they come on the intercom, what do they sound like? Do they sound nervous? Do they sound scared? Do they sound highly stressed? No. They probably sound maybe a little bit bored, definitely in control. There's a confidence there. We like to make fun of pilots, right? But when you think of it on that flow state thing, everything you hear from a pilot is on the high skill side, right? They range from relaxation to control to flow state. And I think that's really interesting. Is that how we sound in life when we're going about our work or managing an event or talking to people? You sound like a pilot all the time? Great job. You're done. Get out of here. I think other people, sometimes we relate to more like this guy, right? We're a little overwhelmed, we're a little behind, we're scrambling to catch up. People are asking us for help from 30 different directions. We scheduled one thing, but 15 people said something else is more important. And it can be hard to stay ahead, and it can be hard to feel like that confident pilot navigating through your day. So let's figure out how we can overcome that. We're going to make sure you stop feeling like your mind is an internet browser with 17 tabs open and 3 of them frozen. What I've noticed with airplanes is you get on the plane, your priorities change, right? And when you get back down, it feels like I just rebooted my browser. It's like, okay, I just cleared my head, I focused on other things, I'm able to keep people alive, I did a good job, I felt like I did something I was born to do. Now let's intentionally rejoin life on the ground and work and whatever else is going on that day. Something I really want to emphasize here is we need to denormalize this association between stress and success. When you ask someone how they're doing, what word seems to always come back? Just so busy, right? Oh, how are you? Just super busy, you know? Is that good? Are they telling us they're crushing life? Are they telling us they're thriving? Are they telling us they're happy? No. The predominant feeling they're experiencing is stress, is busyness. And I think we've learned that if we don't say how busy and stressed we are, we must not be as successful as somebody else. And that's not true. In fact, with airplanes, being stressed qualifies as a hazardous situation, and it literally says you're unfit to complete the flight. Before pilots take off, they have to gauge their pilot readiness on a checklist, and you'll see these 2 ones involve stress. So if you were about to fly and you found that, you know what, I'm experiencing a lot of pressure, I don't feel like I can fully and calmly focus on executing this flight safely, that's a reason not to go. And so I think we need to be really intentional about this, that if we experience stress all the time or tell people how busy we are, we need to change something in order to succeed and move forward safely. And I think that's a really important thing, because an environment like this is not a place where you can feel stressed. Do you think when you're looking at this, you're getting notifications and fielding emails from 20 people? No, you are focused. In fact, every single thing that goes through your mind is organized. It's an intentional focus on one important thing at a time. Is that how our brain works normally? Or do we feel a little bit more like this? Yeah, we got that one thing, and then, oh, this person wants to talk about this over here. Oh, and then my phone's buzzing, and I meant to call my mom, and then what is this Instagram notification, right? We still get the things done, but we experience a lot more busyness and stress when we go through it in the way on the right, as opposed to pilots who just do one thing at a time. So let's talk about airplane stuff for a moment. I want you to pretend you're flying an airplane. So put your hands out in front of you on the yoke, all right? We're going to turn the airplane this way. What's the first thing we do with our hands? Yeah, we turn our hands that way, right? Now, assuming that's the only thing we do, now the plane is just turned and it's flying along in a straight line like that. Where is our body going? Are we still sitting comfortably in our seat? What is gravity telling us to do? Gravity's dragging us down to the low side of the plane, and it's super uncomfortable. But we turn in airplanes all the time. Do we feel like we're getting dropped into the side of the seat every time we turn? Why not? There's something else going on. Pilots are doing something to help us with that. Let's learn about that. What if you were driving a car? Put your hands back up. Oh, sorry, that's the gravity, right. Now we're driving a car. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to turn the car hard right, going fast, right? Bam. Which direction is our body getting pulled now? The other way. Interesting, right? By the centrifugal force, we get shoved to the outside of the turn, to the left, right? We feel that force in that direction. When we're in an airplane, we're going to do both at the same time. We're going to turn, and the gravity pulls us down, and then we're going to use our feet to turn like a car, which pushes our body right back up. And that's why we feel like we're sitting down in our seat comfortably, even while we turn at 600 miles an hour, 35,000 feet off the ground, which is crazy. And so I know you don't need to know what all these things do, but what I wanted to show you is that one of these instruments is for exactly that. That instrument shows you what the wings are doing, like the first way, and where the gravity is going to affect you. And then the little ball in the glass tube gets swung around from centrifugal force like a car. And that gets pushed back out. To keep the ball in the middle shows you that everyone in the plane is sitting comfortably with the force pulling them down. So the reason I'm showing you all that is if you're doing something as simple as turning an airplane, there's a lot going on, which actually is a good thing because you're more focused, more intentional, less distracted to get the results you wanted. And that, I think, is what we need to work on together. Now I want to talk about something a little more serious. Before we get into this, who flew here today or this week? Is anybody nervous about flying? A little bit? I promise we're not going to scare you. How many engines did your airplane have? Right. The second engine will always be good to get you out of a situation. So if you were to experience an engine failure, which would be a terrible thing, all commercial planes can continue flying on one engine. So you're totally fine, even if there was an engine failure. The planes I fly are smaller. They have one engine, right in front of you. And unfortunately, we need to train for emergencies, and that's some of the pilot thinking at its best. So say our engine fails. Okay, we're flying along. Oh, the engine stopped working. Let me grab my emergency procedures book, find the page for engine failure in flight. Okay, here we go. First, I'm going to pitch for airspeed. Then I'm going to find a good place to land. Then I'm going to check the cockpit, declare an emergency, find a good spot, aim for the good spot, shut off my electronics, broadcast to air traffic control, start a search party on the ground, brief my passengers, cut off the fuel to minimize fire on the ground, right? There's this whole crazy list of stuff. What's the problem with that procedure? Yeah. Do you think I'm calmly reading this stupid binder while my engine's not working in the middle of a flight? Absolutely not. So we've got a better way to go about this. What if I told you I could just remember A, B, C, D, E? Okay? So the engine quit. First, I need to manage my airspeed. My gramps used to be a pilot for American Airlines, and he said, "Grandson, the most important three things about flying an airplane are airspeed, airspeed, airspeed. Because if you're moving, you're flying. You don't need an engine to move. If my engine stops at 10,000 feet, what can I do to go faster? It's not the throttle. What else? Yeah, if I point that nose down, gravity's going to make me go faster. If I point the nose up a little higher, gravity's going to slow me down. So I can still control my speed. And so we're going to do that really intentionally. Next, we're going to find a good spot to land. What do you think a good spot to land would be in an emergency? Shout them out. A meadow would be good, a nice big flat field. Yeah, absolutely, that's great. Where else? Yeah, it's okay. A big empty park. Highways are not terrible options. Can you think of an even better place to land an airplane? An airport, yes. One of the reasons we fly so high on commercial flights is if you needed to find a place to land and you've got 30,000 feet to glide, you might have 10 minutes with no power to find an option. And within that 10 minutes, you might be able to get to 15 different airports. So literally with no power, your day might end with landing safely in the wrong place and calling for somebody to pick you up, right? Not terrible. So if we keep our head about us, we can figure out how to do this. The cockpits just check for something stupid. Did I knock a switch? Did I accidentally cut off the fuel to the engine? Can I restart the engine and continue the flight normally? That would be nice. Declaring an emergency, that's telling people, hey, I've got a problem. I might need some support. I'm going to get air traffic to give me some backup, help me figure out what to do next. And finally, I'm going to execute the safest landing I can under the circumstances. This seems better than that binder, doesn't it? So we're making progress because we have a way to remember this, even when the stakes are high. Let's boil it down even further. Pilot thinking, regardless of the situation, boils down to three things. First, aviate. That means fly the airplane. It means all I got to do right now is figure out what I need to do with the immediate situation. Where are my hands? What's the plane doing? Only then do I need to worry about navigating. Where am I going next, and how can I get there intentionally on my terms? And then once I've done those two things, now I can start asking the question, what information needs to get to the right people, and how do we go about that? So one thing at a time. We tend to suffer from this myth that we can multitask really well, and the truth is we can't. The truth is we're really distracted, and when we get distracted, we're really bad at doing the first thing. So this is why compartmentalizing is really important, and this is why pilots sound so calm, even though what they're doing is a lot more complicated than what we're doing on the ground most of the time. So let's get into aviating. Every flight instructor likes to say to students, keep flying the airplane. It sounds like a really basic thing, but it's so important. And in fact, one of the hardest things to teach a student is landing, right? Because if you're getting interested in learning how to fly airplanes, and there's one thing you're a little nervous about, it's probably flying the airplane into the ground intentionally at the end of the flight. Because that seems like the rule that we don't want to break. Rule number one, keep the airplane in the air, right? But now your instructor's saying, yeah, but we have to fly down onto that piece of pavement, right? It's terrifying. And so the student will start descending, right? And it's going pretty good. And then the student starts getting nervous because the ground's moving real fast and it looks really hard. And then this thing called ground effect happens where the air under your plane is bouncing off the ground and causing you to balloon back up. And you have to actually intentionally fight down through that thing that feels like a cushion of air to continue the descent through that last 20 feet. And what happens with a nervous student? They just don't do it. Now they're flying 20 feet over the runway, and they're just like, and you can see their knuckles turning white, and they're like, oh my God, I'm not, no, I'm not going to land. And you have to literally just calmly tell the student, hey, keep flying the airplane, 20 more feet, we're back on the ground safe. And that's okay. So how do we do that on the ground? Ideally, we want to get away from these red things. We don't want to feel distracted or stressed or overwhelmed. And we want to get to a point where we're feeling focused and present and responsive. That's when we're flying the airplane successfully, right? This has nothing to do with where I'm going next. This has nothing to do with the email I need to respond to or answering somebody. Even if the control tower is yelling at me in my headphones, it's more important that I fly the plane, okay? So let's get into the next one, navigate. We need to stay ahead of the airplane. And this is an interesting one too, because sometimes there's a lot going on. Oh, I've got to adjust this thing and manage my speed and check my cylinder temperatures, and then what's happening if I'm getting buried in things that just happened or already happened? I'm not aware of what's happening right now, right? I'm mentally disconnected from the present. So I've got to figure out what's going next. In 10 minutes, I'm going to enter Connecticut airspace, and they're going to tell me to switch frequencies. Let me get that queued up now. Let me anticipate what's coming. Let me visually get in the zone for where I'm going to be going and what I'm going to be dealing with in a couple minutes. That's going to help me do it safely. And then if something weird happens, I'm super ready to deal with the unexpected curveball because I was already so ahead of what I expected, which is great. So, navigating on the ground. We don't want to be feeling like we're improvising. We don't want to be surprised by things. We don't want to feel frazzled. We want to get to a point where we're always planning ahead. We're always anticipating. We're always organized. And it feels great when you do that, especially in events, because someone will frantically call me and be like, oh my God, we need to print VIP passes for the show on Saturday. And I say, Miguel, I printed those last week. I've got them. I'm going to bring them to you on Saturday morning. And he's like, oh my God, thank you. It's because I anticipated. I knew that was going to need to happen. I knew it would take a week to get them printed. I knew I would need to design it. I knew I would need to get the artwork and figure it out. So I organized myself to get that done. Do we have a tool that helps us navigate through our time throughout the day and the week and the year? Spreadsheets. I would suggest a calendar, but spreadsheets could work great too, I guess, if you organize. So people like to talk about all these tools and platforms that help them with organization. And if they work for you, that's great. But I find that for all the people that tell me how busy they are and seem like they're frazzled and behind the airplane, I bet their calendar looks empty. I bet they do not have back-to-back important organized things specifically laid out in the right order. I think we need to calendar better. Also, things like sometimes you don't need to decide everything on your own. At home, I've got smart light bulbs and Sonos things and the smart Nest stuff. Does anyone use products like this? Smart home products? What I love about this is in the morning, I want to listen to coffee shop music. But I don't want to have to decide that every day because it's going to happen every day. Why don't I just have it happen by itself? And now I've got this automated routine, and I can put my brain into the next thing and get ahead of the airplane. The greatest thing with smart homes, I don't wake up to an alarm anymore. Instead of an alarm saying, beep, 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 get out of bed, stop sleeping, sleeping's great, but you can't do it anymore. That's a negative thing that starts every day. Who woke up to an alarm today? Right? Was it painful? Is it just kind of the way it is? Instead, I've chosen to have the house say, hey, there's coffee music playing downstairs, and your shades are open, so you should probably hop up and go have a delicious cup of coffee and start thinking about what's next. Get a look at the calendar and get into it. So anything we can do to navigate, right? Create these cues, be intentional about where we're going with our time will help us a lot. The last one, of course, is communicate, right? Once you have successfully aviated and controlled the airplane, once you have been intentional about where you're going next with your attention, now we need to learn how to get the right information to the right people at the right time. Flight instructors tell students there's a simple format for this. Who are you? Where are you? And what do you want? And this is kind of cold, but it's kind of refreshing too, because who gets rambling emails that don't really have a specific call to action, or there's 50 people CC'd and you're not sure if you're the target or if you're supposed to answer? We can learn from pilot communication. And when we do, we'll start to feel like we're more capable of being clear and concise and action-oriented, less vague, less rambling, less open-ended. We want to make those attitudes feel like the outliers. Let me show you what pilot talking sounds like.
Tower 86, rate time 2250 Zulu, wind variable at 4, weather better than 5005. Temperature 23, dew point 19er, altitude 2999er. ILS or visual approach to runway 29 is in use. Notice imminent advisories, as is weather information available on high watts and flight temperature frequencies. Runway 29 DME out of service. Use caution, runway alignment routinely confused. As a request to ensure heading matches runway assignment on final. Read back all hold show instructions and runway assignments. Five on initial contact, give X-ray.
Ground 13 Victor, is that right here on Juliet, the signature?
That is correct. 13 Victor, signature is behind the King Air there. Once you're established on Juliet, you see the King Air parked right in front of it.
Oh, I got it now. Thanks, 13 Victor.
Bedford ground 0707 Whiskey Tango. Hold T is ready to taxi with X-ray.
707 Whiskey Tango ground, runway 23. Taxi via Sierra and, correction, runway 29er, taxi via Sierra and Echo.
29er via Sierra and Echo, 7 Whiskey Tango. And with our Sierra 707 Whiskey Tango is holding short of 29, ready for departure to stay in the pattern.
Sierra 707 Whiskey Tango has the power, make left close traffic. Runway 29er, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, left traffic, 7 Whiskey Tango.
Whiskey Tango, change to right close traffic.
Right close traffic, 7 Whiskey Tango.
Cheers, 7 Whiskey Tango, runway 29, clear touch and go, cautionary turbulence, right talker.
Clear touch and go with the traffic, 7 Whiskey Tango.
So that's all pretty self-explanatory, right? So there's a lot going on, and this is all important information. One of the things that the controller said, she said, you're clear to land, but there's a jet on the runway right now, and if you land before the air has settled, there will be sideways invisible tornadoes that will kill you. But we cover that, and at the end of the day, it's all boiled down into super important information, but only the important information in that same format. Who are you? Where are you? What do you need? Or what do I need to tell you? And I find that refreshing that we can have that conversation in that short of a time, but cover all the information that needs to happen to safely operate an airplane in a busy airspace with jets there. That's crazy. I'm not saying we need to talk like that on the ground, but I think we could conquer email and make email a little bit more efficient. Who's got more than 1,000 on their red badge email right now? Oh, God. Okay. Who's got more than 3,000? Come on, really? Okay. That offends me so much. When I think about stuffed email boxes like this, I like to think of the metaphor of physical mail, okay? So imagine you wake up in the morning, and you have your bathrobe, and you walk out to the mailbox, and you open the mailbox, and you see 3,941 letters. You look at the top one, maybe the second one, and then what are you doing? You're putting them right back in the mailbox, closing it, and walking back inside. This is not a good way to manage information. You're going to miss something important, like the jet that's on the runway, okay? Who's got notifications so when you get an email, your phone buzzes? So, like, I think that's really bad because that's distracting. If you're trying to fly the airplane, figuratively, but somebody else has something they'd like you to know is happening right now, oh, there's a big sale at Crate and Barrel going on. So stop what you're doing and, oh, what's this? Everybody take out your phones. How many notifications are on your lock screen right now? Who has 0? Yes, you're focused. You're here. Thank you for being here. Who's got a couple? Who's got enough that require scrolling? Do these things deserve your attention? Who's controlling your time? You're allowing a lot of different things to jar you off of flying the airplane. And this is a really important quote from Tim Ferriss. Email is everyone else's agenda for your day. And if you don't have time, if you're those people that feel super busy, what's really happening is you don't have priorities. And these competing messages on your phone are a really good example of this. These things all tell you they're the most important thing. And of course, the people sending the emails think they are. But what's the expression? Procrastination on your side does not mean urgency on mine, or something like that. We get to decide which things are important. We need a system for that. We can't just be the victim of all these 3,941 emails that are bombarding us all the time. And that's what we're really getting into here. And this is what pilot thinking is all about. How we organize this. I'm going to show you my process for dealing with emails, because I go to sleep every night with an empty inbox, and it feels amazing, and I feel like I'm able to focus on what I want. So within 24 hours of receiving an email, I will process it. Here's how that works. I'm going to ask myself, is this email important? If it's not, I'm going to archive it, and it's gone. What's the difference between archive and trash? Archive's still there. It's searchable. I could go find that coupon code for Bed Bath & Beyond if I need it later. It exists, but it's not in my inbox. It's not top of mind. It's available, but not present, which is good. All right, what if the thing is important? Then I'm going to ask a different question. Is this time sensitive? Okay. Then I'm going to ask a different question. Yes, it's time sensitive, but is it quick? Yes, it's quick. What am I going to do? Do it. Great. Done. Then I'm going to say, hey, I just did that thing. It's all set. Thank you very much. And then what am I going to do? Archive it. Get out of here. All right? What if it is important, it is time sensitive, but it's not quick? Do I do it? What do I do? Do I leave it in my inbox? No, it doesn't live in my inbox. I got the message. That was the job of the message being in my inbox. I'm going to get it on the calendar, this time-sensitive thing that's not quick. All right, I've got an hour on the plane tomorrow. I could bang out this thing then. Let's do it. Okay, I'm going to do this tomorrow. Now what am I going to do? Hey, client, I got that thing. I understand you need it by Saturday. I have scheduled a time to crush this tomorrow afternoon. You're going to have it by the time, by 6 p.m. tomorrow when I land. And then I'm going to get rid of this message because it has been processed. It's in my pipeline on my terms. All right, what if it's important? It is time sensitive. Or no, it's not time sensitive. What are we going to do? Ask if it's quick. Okay, it's quick. It is important, but it's not time sensitive. Snooze. Show me this again in May 15th when I got some time to breathe. I don't need it right now. Right? Snoozing is a responsible thing to do under the right circumstances, and this is what that circumstance looks like. What if it's not quick? Schedule it. All right, I'll do this in August because I got to be ready for that fall event. No problem. I got plenty of time on a Tuesday in August. That's great. Then I'm going to get rid of it. You see, every type of message in my inbox can be effectively processed and then go away so that I can go to sleep. It doesn't mean I did everything everybody asked of me today. It says I saw it, I considered it, and I made an intentional choice about what happens next. Once we've done that, we ask ourselves, is this inbox empty? And if it's not, we go back and process the next one. And if it is, we have succeeded in emptying our inbox. We have an empty mind. We're now free to fly the airplane, to aviate, right? Sound good? I have whole presentations on aggressive calendaring and would love to spend lots more time on it. And if you're curious about that, please ask me later because I'd be happy to talk about calendars all day. The key thing I want you to take away here is not how to learn to process your calendar in your inbox. It's to learn that goals are great. Okay, I want to go to bed tonight with an empty inbox. Sounds great. But the way I'm actually going to get there is by having a system to do it. That's what thinking like a pilot will really get you. And as you can see, a system is what gets you to win repeatedly, not just once. To boil all of this down all the way, pilot thinking comes down to 3 P's. What do you think one of the P words is? Shout them loud. Prepare? I like that. All right, there's 4 P words. What's another one? Plan? There's 5 P words that are critical for thinking like a pilot. What's another one? Huh? Proactive is a good one. Shoot, you guys are killing me. Okay. I want somebody to get one of them. Yes. Practice, process, and priorities. So we were tiptoeing around them, and I'm going to add all of yours because I like them. But this, I think, is what's missing in a lot of so busy type mindsets. Is, yeah, I've got lots going on, but of course I do. I own a business. It's April. It's college event season. I got 15 shows in the next 3 weeks. Of course there's a lot happening, but I know how to have a process to manage this stuff because it's my job and I'm a professional. Professional is another great P word. I've got priorities. I know which ones need to happen right now, but in this moment, I'm here to give this presentation. I'm not stressed about whatever's waiting for me in my inbox, and I'll get to that later on my terms, and that's okay. I started applying this stuff in real life. So I noticed these interesting parallels as my business got successful and as my brain got better at dealing with this stuff. This is called an approach procedure. You don't need to know what this means, but it's an extremely specific, objective way for an airplane to land successfully, in this case, on runway 14 left. So on the bottom, you can see what altitude you need to be at certain points, where you start your final descent, how long it's going to take to get down. It's just pure information. It's not an opinion. It's not like, yeah, come on in and land, pal. Can't wait to see you. It's like, execute the ILS on runway 14 left. And I pull that up on my little iPad, and I see exactly what they mean by that, exactly what I need to do it safely, and then we execute it. Working on a show, we have something that looks a little different. This is a logistics sheet. This is a multi-tab form, spreadsheets, which help manage things, as we know. And this just says, I need objective information to execute this show. Where do I need to be? Who's showing up when? What kind of curveballs do we have? How much cable do we need? How much power is available? We've organized that, just like an approach procedure tells me how to get somewhere safely. A show file tells me and my team how to execute the show properly. Pro tip, the link to that show file lives on the calendar. So if I look on Saturday, I've got a show loading in at Harvard, And if you click on that calendar item, it'll go to this sheet and say, this is exactly what's happening for us to execute this show on Saturday. And I think that parallel is really interesting. Here's another one. This is what the cockpit might look like during a normal flight. I know you don't know what these things all mean, and that's totally fine, but can anybody tell me how this flight is going? It's going pretty good. How do you know? There's lots of green, right? If something was a problem, it would be blinking at me, or red, or doing something wild, or smoking, right? So yeah, I could tell you what each of these things mean, but flying the airplane successfully does not mean micromanaging every piece of this information all the time, because that's not realistic. So I need to use the tools. Our core values within our team for events are happiness, stress, and utilization. I want to know how the team's doing every week. In order to get paid, they have to submit this data. How is the team doing right now, if this is chronological? There have been some moments of stress for some people. Okay, but they're still happy, and nobody's at a 5 for utilization as of right now. So I can look at this and make an informed analysis of how the team is doing internally. And if somebody's showing red all the time, that's for me to reach out and be like, okay, hey buddy, like, I see you've been peaking on stress lately, like, tell me what's going on. Do you need to make an adjustment? Is everything okay? Can I do anything to help? And then we can make the adjustment by honing in and focusing on the right piece. Just like if one of those gauges on the left was red, we would know that that needs our attention. Another one is as a performer. So this is called a nav log. This says, on a long, complicated trip, these are all the places you need to go to get there. This is what altitude you expect to be at. This is the wind. This is the heading. This is how long it's going to take to get to your next waypoint. And it's just a really specific path to your destination. This is how I prepare a DJ show. I need to know which songs we're playing, in what order, which ones are important, what key they're in, what tempo they're in. But this is the journey that's going to get me to where I want to go, one step at a time. This is the tool that helps me navigate to the next thing. Even getting nerdier here, this is the relationship between drag and power, which is a complicated piece of airplanes, but we need to understand it. I actually created a similar graph that I had no idea was inspired by this, but this talks about if you spend tons of money and you can afford Beyonce, that's going to be a great concert. If you can't, people think you'll get a linear relationship. That's not true. If you can only afford half of Beyonce, you're going to end up in this problematic trough where people aren't getting what they want musically. I don't need you to understand the strategy, but I do need you to understand that for me, it was looking at a relationship on a graph between two things that mattered to my customers or to my passengers and identifying some ways to go about information that way. That is just another way that pilot thinking has helped me revolutionize my business, and it worked really well. As a result of all of these systems and processes and 3 Ps, and aviating, navigating, and communicating, I went from experiencing stuff like that to feeling like my brain was a lot more organized and a lot more compartmentalized, and I was able to focus successfully on one thing at a time. I was aviating, then navigating, then communicating. And I promise you, if you can use these things to learn to think like a pilot, you'll find that you're more productive, more focused, and more calm. And I think that's something we could all learn from. Sound like a plan? That's what I've got for you today. I hope this has been useful, and if you want to learn more about airplanes or the Search Foundation or calendaring, please find me and let's chat. But thank you so much for having me. Enjoy the rest of the conference.